Hey everybody, welcome back to Champ and Sons and our Planet Zoo series here in our third episode of this zoo build. So what are we going to be working on today? Well, first we're going to be working on a grizzly bear habitat that we're going to be making, and then we have a Himalayan brown bear along with American bison, also known as buffalo. So that is going to be our builds today. Right now, you are watching the grizzly bear habitat come under construction. Um, the staff entrance, I decided to keep it kind of in the back so people didn't have to worry about seeing it. And then I'm just going to be outlining it with some lovely, lovely big old boulders. Uh, and one thing I realized when putting the rocks in, after looking at some pictures from other zoos around the area, San Antonio, Fort Worth, Houston. A lot of these habitats that have rocks as kind of the outlier on it. One of the biggest things that I noticed for them is the rocks look pretty, I guess you could say pretty fake. That's just kind of the way it's going to go, is if you do have massive rocks in there. And, you're going to build them up with a purpose in mind. So that's why, these they look purposefully placed. Yeah, well, that's because they are. So that was kind of what we went with going into it. Um, and I did make it quite huge, mainly because it's a freaking grizzly bear, for God's sakes. They got to have space. These aren't little tiny animals. They're massive, massive predators. And so I wanted to make sure they had enough space to go around. And then I probably might have to go back and change some things, but this is just a little border for the outside to try to keep the bears out. I could have just kept that dry. Um, I did add water into it just because I thought that looked cooler. So we'll kind of see how it goes. But I did eventually get everything to work out with the barriers. Um, Once I added the water in, it kind of made things a little bit more difficult. As y'all will see here coming up, a lot of escapage room for the Grizzlies. And so that's what we're going to be working on here to start everything out for us for today. Now, we do only put in 2 Grizzlies, of course, because one, you don't need anything more than that. And I mean, probably as cool as a grizzly fight would be, I don't need that going on in my zoo. Okay. So that's why I maintain with just the two, one male, one female. That way we can get some grizzly cubs out of it. And here I go, just smoothing out some of the water, basically the water trough line. And that's kind of where I go a little bit wrong as far as making the habitat escapable. If I just kept it dry, they wouldn't have been able to escape out of there. But since it's not, they are able to. So I put in a little mound to start to simulate kind of the bear den that they would have. I start layering it with rocks, and it just starts looking really weird, and I just don't like it. So I am going to go back and remove those rocks off of there, as you'll probably see here in just a little bit. But I do end up building up the border around them because I don't want the bear to be able to climb up on top of the rock formation above its den and jump out and attack and kill my people. So that's one of the biggest changes I think you just saw kind of go down. And I'm looking at putting in a little stream leading to that river section. I realized it wasn't going to work coming off the side where the gate entrance was, mainly. I don't think the zookeepers go past that, and that would become a serious problem. So I had it coming off the other side, leading to the water. And eventually I'm going to make a little waterfall coming off the top of the den. It's going to need some work. I'll be doing a lot of that detailed work for it off camera so we don't have to worry about seeing it. See, there's all that escapability right there. I really probably should have just kept that part dry and we wouldn't have had that issue. But to be honest with you, I didn't think about that till I started recording this. So that's that's kind of that's kind of what I that's kind of how I go. That's how I build. Okay, I don't worry about stuff like that until it's a little too late. You know what I mean? So here I'm going to be putting in the glass barriers so that way we have maximum visibility going around. And it becomes a little bit touchy since I've already covered up the outside because I can't really see where the edge of the path is, since it won't let it be built there. And I do going to top off the glass barrier with some cement, just because if you're going to build that, you're going to have something there also supporting it. And so that's why we went with the cement topper to kind of match the walls that we have coming into it. And then we are going to get some, I guess you could say, foliage work coming in around the habitat after this one. We will kind of cut in between in and out because this build took almost a couple hours, and it's not even the most detailed build that there is. So you might see me switch off to part of the buffalo habitat here in a little bit, but that's just kind of to keep things a little bit fresh for me on that one. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and leave y'all with some tunes here as we kind of start finishing up these builds, and I will catch up with y'all here a little bit later in the episode. So I'll check in with y'all then. So see ya. I am back as we are finishing up our Himalayan brown bear foliage. I did build that rock design there. I really wanted them to try to at least be able to go up and down it, but they are way too lazy and didn't even want to give it a shot. So, just kind of dealt with it as it was. I did keep it in there because I liked how it looked, and they do go under it quite a bit, and it can provide a little focal point for the peeps to be seeing. So that's why I kept it. Now I'm just kind of finishing off some of the groundwork for below the glass exhibits once again, just so they're not sitting into plain grass. And what I'm doing right here is trying to do the same type of path cover for brown bear that I did for the grizzly bear. I liked that. I like having that above it. It provides shading, comfort when you're trying to view animals. Because everybody knows, here in Texas, it gets hot, and any shade is always greatly appreciated. But shading just wasn't going to work out. I'll figure out how to cover that up in a little while, probably in the next episode, or I'll do some stuff like that off screen, so you won't always see it. But right now, this is the buffalo habitat that we're going to be working on. So I had some minor little problems with getting the whole setup started, along with getting it to go under the viewing platform, because I had built that viewing platform up top, and then there's also one down below. Now the one down below, the way I was envisioning it, would be for people to come in and see. That's essentially where their sleeping area is going to be. And I really had to turn off the weather. I know it says it's snowing. If you look at the date, it says June. And my God, that wouldn't be anything more of a 2020 type of thing as if it snowed like this in freaking June. But I do eventually end up going, wait a second, I can turn this weather off. I'll end up doing that, no problem. One of the biggest things about it is I really wanted to kind of, have it run along a path so you get more viewing points than just, hey, you got to come up here to see them. These are just the best. But, as you're walking along the path, you'll be able to turn your head and see some animal. That's a very logical type of thing. And here comes the monsoon. Once again, as I'm building these habitats, you'll notice these things are quite large. I do prefer them to be that way. One, we have a pretty decent sized plot of land. So it's not like having massive habitats like this are really going to take away from what you can put in. Because once we get to the monkey area and some of the smaller climbing animals, those are going to have some smaller little habitat sections. It's not something that's going to be this massive. So anytime you get outdoor animals, and the way these buffalo are, they need their space. Especially when you start putting a lot of them in here, which we do. I think I end up getting about 10 to 12 of them in there. So here I am just fixing up the barriers. And I need to go through and add the natural barrier to it, because just once I got rid of it, it still said they could escape from there, which I didn't like. So I added the natural barrier, and boom, completely covered up. So here I go putting down the bedding, and I know it's a ton of bedding, but like I said, we have 12 bison in there, buffalo, whatever you want to call them. And I don't know if y'all know this, those things are freaking huge, man. They need their space, they need their sleeping area, and I was not about to take that away from them. So here we're taking care of the peeps a little bit now, providing some coverage for this upper section. And it became a little bit hairier than I thought it would be. With Planet Coaster, if you go with the standard, I guess like 4-meter path or whatever, and you do the block section off, it generally tends to fit everything about perfect, right? It just does. Not all the time with Planet Zoo, it seems like. So there is a little difference there. So what I decided to do, instead of having those wonky looking little arch things with the wood, I decided, let me just put an actual 1 meter wood piece down, wood little base, and we'll kind of go with it from there. So here, kind of getting into just the support design for the roofs and to make it look a little bit nicer. I do try to get some lighting going, so I make it pitch black, which was not the best move for me to make because I can't see where I'm trying to hook these things up at. So downside on my part, and I'm like, you know what, forget it. We're putting on this lights on the path. Make things simple, right? That's what you got to do. Go simple instead of complicated. And here I am having problems clicking on my mouse because I don't know how to work it. And I start placing the roof all the way down to get a nice little covered section for you to go up top and get a perfect view of them buffalo. So that's what we're working on here. I do end up also building the buffalo sign for them and putting in a little bit of covers for those down below. A little bit of foliage work goes into it. As everybody knows, they're buffalo. They normally lived on the plains, so they don't need all that much. And I overload them with it. And then, as is pretty common with Planet Zoo, go back and fix it. It's one of my theories that I have playing this game. I will go back and I will fix it because God knows I'm not going to do it right the first time. And that's kind of where we're going to be at on this one. I do want y'all to notice, though, as I put in a bunch of trees and stuff, and man, for a second I thought it looked good till I had to back myself away from it and realized it looked pretty crappy, And here's just the path covers for the lower section coming in. I wanted to keep it simple, not make it too wild or too crazy. And so it actually ended up fitting in pretty perfectly with how I wanted it to be done. Here comes the setting for them buffalo. Right now, I think at this point I only had 6 in there. I add in some more. I didn't want to go too heavy on the soil because let's face it, they're used to the plains. Which, I get it has lots of soil, very few trees, but it also has primarily high grass. So I'm just placing random bushes. And I was like, this looks stupid. Let me take that out. Here comes the trees. I like trees. But then, wait a second. These are buffalo. These are not forest-dwelling beast. So I will go and take those trees out here in a little while. A little while I mean by like 30 seconds, give or take. I've seen people do this in their builds, and I really think that's probably the better way to get some good-looking bushes here. And Planet Zoo is just take the trees and sink them down. Those are generally tend to be the best ones that I can find. So I kind of took that theory on there. Just placing around there enrichment items coming through. That's always been one of the things I hammer in. Here I am adding in the last few buffalo into this exhibit. Like I said, there's 10 of them. They're massive. They needed the space. I'm glad to provide it for them. And here comes our sign. Yep, here it is. And what do we call this place? This very wooded area? That's right, you guessed it. Bison Plains. The most wooded plains you'll ever see in your lifetime. And I just got the standard letters. Like I said, I may start working on possibly doing my own fonts, but that takes too much time. And there are a lot of really good fonts out there, but I just wanted this to be something that I completed essentially all custom built stuff. So that's kind of where that came from in terms of just using what's in game right now until I decide to take the time to try to make my own fonts. To be honest with you, it's probably not going to happen. That stuff takes forever to do. So I'll probably be going with the in-game fonts throughout, I would say, the series. And so we got the nice little sign up, finishing up the trees on the outside of the exhibit. And I try to go with trees that, these giant cedar trees may not be the most Austin type things, but I enjoy them quite a bit. And so I started placing those around, and that's something, as soon as I did, I was like, oh crap, we still have way too many trees on the inside. And so I go back through and delete a bunch of those out of there, make additional little viewing sections, and that's kind of where we let off. I add in some of the educational signs. Well, that's just a support. I put in the little habitat education, a couple of those up top, and I think at least a couple of them down below as well. And then add some benches for people to be resting on and sitting. And it's funny, when I add them up top, you don't get a whole lot of people sitting down immediately. But once I put them down there on the bottom level, they are sitting down almost immediately. So, as we get ready to finish this off, we will cut to some cinematics here quite shortly for the habitats. I do want to thank y'all for joining us here in the third episode of our Planet Zoo series. Remember to like and subscribe. And as always, everybody, stay safe and later, y'all.